So when you meet a toxic guy nowadays, do you know he's toxic kind of from the start?
No, like what I said, you as a woman, like you would never date somebody who's blatantly an asshole, like no matter how like cute they are, no matter how rich or like how much status they have, right? A lot of guys take advantage of nice women where like women are nothing but nice to them and they still treat them like shit, and that's just like a universal thing. That's the misogynistic, society that we live in across the world. But if you're a woman and you do well for yourself, you have your own money, your own career, why would you settle for less than that?
The conversation regarding what do you want to do in America is always very heavily swayed toward like, do what you're passionate about.
If you're struggling to find like what you want to do with your career, ask yourself, what did you enjoy as a little kid? I feel like a lot of men do cheat, and they would cheat if they knew that they could get away with it. Men love crazy women, and then they have this assumption like all women are crazy. People are like they're fixated on this idea of perfection that does not exist in dating. Nobody is perfect, right? There's always going to be somebody better than your current partner. As long as you have good character, I find you good looking. Like you don't have to be Brad Pitt, but if you're like cute or like good looking to me and you treat me well, you have great character, I'll fall in love with you. In order to attract what you want, you have to be that. A lot of people in LA lack a sense of direction. Like I'm from New York, where it's like everybody.
That's not controversial at all. Everybody thinks that. Welcome to Unattainable. Glad to have you with us. My name's Zach Evans. I'm your host, and thank you to all our listeners. We've been absolutely blowing up the last couple months, and we got to thank you guys for all of that. Today, we got a special guest, Jelika, on the podcast.
Hi.
Jelika, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell people where you're from, what you're doing in LA, and your star sign.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm from New York City. I was born and raised there. I moved to LA like 3 years ago. And professionally, I'm a social media manager for a group of beauty brands. So like that's kind of my background. As far as my sun sign, I'm a Gemini. I don't know. Is that a red flag?
It's a huge red. That's like the red flaggiest sign, like the most red flag sign.
I think Gemini men are like infinitely worse than Gemini women.
See, that's what people keep telling me about Pisces, because I'm a Pisces. And they keep telling me, oh, the girls are great, but the men, blah, blah, blah. Although the International Council of Horoscopes has deemed that Pisces is the best sign based on numerous studies, a lot of scientific research, smartest, funniest, tallest, most attractive, smartest. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, Zach.
How is it? What is it like being a toxic sign? I wouldn't know.
What it's like?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm not a toxic person, but I've dated a lot of toxic men for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you dated any sociopaths or narcissists?
I know we talked about this before. So like, okay, so
we got to get it on the podcast.
I think to say, and we got to redo that intro because I was nervous. Okay, but yeah, as far as like sociopaths and narcissists, so I feel like to say that you've dated a sociopath or met one, it's rare because like the percentage is very low. Like I don't really know anybody who could be like completely sociopathic, even though that does exist. But I definitely have dated a lot of narcissistic people. And like we talked about before, you wouldn't date somebody who's blatantly an asshole, right? But it's like they initially present themselves as a decent person and then gradually it just becomes worse. So yeah.
So let me ask you this, because you said you're not toxic, but you had toxic relationships. Do you think that you're attracting toxic relationships, or do you just think most men in LA are toxic? Or what is how is this happening?
I actually want to talk about this because I've dated in both New York City and LA, which like a lot of people haven't had that experience. I've done like online dating, I've met people in person, and there's different kinds of men that you'll meet in both cities, right? So a lot of the men that I dated in New York were like, professional, like worked in finance, whatever, but gave very much like American Psycho, like Chad Brad energy, like like frat boys basically, but they're like grown, they have money. And then in LA, it's a lot of men who work in like the creative industry. They do like acting, modeling, whatever else, right? And I feel like both of those kinds of like fields of work attract a lot of narcissistic people. Like you kind of have to be if you're gonna work in finance, or like if you're gonna be in like film or something like that,
I think what it is more so the people that you meet in those industries, because they're the type who are going out to these clubs and these parties where people are flaunting things, status is very important. Those are the people that you're meeting. Like, I think there's probably plenty of people in finance that just go to the office, go to Chipotle and then fucking go home. And you'll probably never even meet them because they don't like party like that. You know what I mean? but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So when you meet a toxic guy nowadays, do you know he's toxic kind of from the start?
No, like what I said, you as a woman, like you would never date somebody who's blatantly an asshole, like no matter how like cute they are, no matter how rich or like how much status they have, right? But a lot of these men, like they know what to do and say to like reel you in. And like I said, like I have a pretty good like bullshit detector. Like I'm from New York, so I don't like when people are like, oh, LA is fake. I'm like, you just don't have a good bullshit detector. Like you kind of just associate yourself with anybody and like anything. But a lot of these guys, like they'll say like, I want a relationship, right? And then they'll like act like they want a relationship, take you on nice dates, invest time and energy. And then gradually they start becoming assholes, you know? And like we talked about before, I feel like a lot of narcissistic people, if they see that you're like a genuinely nice and kind person, it doesn't matter if like it's the guy or a girl who's a narcissist, right? They're attracted to that because they want to drain you of your energy. So that's something you have to be like cognizant of, like, you know, when you're dating, especially in a city like LA or New York.
Mm-hmm. Is it they want to drain you of your energy, or do they just want to, is it kind of they want to have their cake and eat it too? They want to keep you around, keep you on the stringing you along, but then also want to talk to other chicks. Is it more of that, do you think?
I think it's the second one. Like they just want somebody there, you know, like to manipulate, to you know, like you said, be a placeholder while they explore other options. But narcissistic people, like they don't have a moral compass, right? So like they'll do whatever they want. Like they're always looking for their next victim, you know?
Mm-hmm. So, okay, this is the other question I have, because as a guy, right?
Yeah.
I grew up being the biggest simp, fucking nice guy, polite. My parents always told me, oh, be polite to everybody and just so nice, buying flowers, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't get no girls, Jelika. I got friend zoned. I got cheated on. They date my friends.
No.
So it's like, at some point, it's like, if you're looking around and all the girls are dating the fuckboys, and then you're being nice and getting just rejected. Like, at what point do you just have to say as a guy, okay, like what I'm doing is not working. What they're doing is working. Maybe I should like try that out. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so I'm going to make a counter argument to that.
Okay.
I do feel bad for nice guys. Are there women who take advantage of men? Of course, like I see it all the time, especially in a city like LA, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like a lot of guys take advantage of nice women where like women are nothing but nice to them and they still treat them like shit. And that's just like a universal thing. That's the misogynistic, you know, society that we live in across the world. But I feel like as a guy, right, like I said, I don't know what kind of like people you've dated, but most like decent women, like if you're a nice guy and you're a simp, like they'll love that. Like women don't really
no,
So.
Jelika. They
I don't know. I love that.
Okay, but do you love that in guys who are 6'5" and good looking, or do you love it in just normal the dude from Chipotle across the fucking register? You know what I mean?
am gonna make an argument to all of that, right?
Okay.
Whether you're a guy or
keep
a girl,
talking. I'm just checking.
Okay, whether you're a guy or a girl and you're dating somebody, right? Like, you always want to be at least somewhat attracted to them. Like, I'm not saying like go for somebody you have no type of physical or like emotional attraction to, but you know, like I always say, I'd rather date the guy who's like a 6 or 7, but you have a heart of gold, you have good character, than the guy who's like 6'5", shredded, you make a lot of money, but I know you're an asshole. Because it's like, that's not a sustainable relationship to have long term, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like here in LA, you see it all the time where girls date these like, you know, these guys who are blatantly assholes because they're with them for superficial reasons, like for money, for status, for clout. And I don't agree with that. Like, do I agree? Like, yes, when you're a girl and you date somebody, you want somebody who at least is like financially stable, has their shit together, of course, you know, but I couldn't just date somebody solely for like money or status, because I feel like in the end you end up working in another way, if that makes sense. Like, it's a lot of like emotional labor on your part to deal with somebody who's very narcissistic, who, you know, does all of these like bad things basically. But girls will put up with it because they want the money and the clout.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying you don't care about money and clout and status and stuff like that?
I care, honestly. Like, if you have a good character, like you generally are a good man, you know, you have a provider mentality, you don't have to be like the richest person in the world. Like, it's not like there's millionaires like every single where, right? But like, if you're at least financially stable, you have good character, you know, you treat people well, like that's what I ultimately care about. like I said, like I couldn't be with somebody just for money, because it's like I have my own money, I have my own career, right? And a lot of these guys who have a lot of money, I'm not saying, you see it all the time. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. There are like, rich guys, they're generally nice guys, they have good intentions, but a lot of like really wealthy guys that I've met out here in LA, like they have ulterior motives, like you just know, like they're bad news basically.
Well, what it is it's interesting. I think, and this is going to connect in a sec, that attractive women get cheated on actually more than ugly girls.
I think women in general just get cheated on a lot. But I don't know. Like why do you think that is though, from what you've observed?
Because let's say you're a guy who's dating like supermodel, Victoria's Secret model, right? Mm-hmm. The skill set that it takes to date a Victoria's Secret model, right? You can't just be good looking. You have to be good looking,
have money,
rich, charismatic, funny. You have to have like fucking six pack. You have to have everything, right? So if you took that much time and effort to create this whole persona and to be this good with women, you're not just gonna do it once. You know what I mean? Whereas like if you're a guy who's like settling, like you don't have that stuff, and you get the girl who's like not that attractive, maybe like a 5, then it's like you can't get any other girls. You know what I mean? It's like for you to get a girl, it's like it's very hard to ask for the girl's number, like when you're like ringing them up at Chipotle and you're like, oh, like can I get your number? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think it's just the skill set it takes to get the 10 is a skill set that guys are just going to use over and over in that case.
No, I definitely agree with your point. And like going back to what I was saying earlier, like about, women dating for money, clout, and fame, especially in a city like LA, right? Like I said, I think as a girl, there's nothing wrong with dating a guy who does well for himself. Because if you think about it, if you're dating with the intention to find somebody that you're potentially going to marry, who might be the father of your future children, right? Mm-hmm. They should at the very least be financially stable, be financially responsible. And if they have more money and they treat you well, that's even better, because it's like, they could provide for you and your kids. Like you want to make sure your kids are set. I think that's better than being one of those girls, like I hate to say it, but it's like you date a guy who's like nothing to offer you, mm-hmm. not even like fidelity. Like I've seen a lot of situations where women will date guys that like have nothing going for them, who can't even at the very least be faithful to them. And it's like they do it just because they want a man. And I feel like it's normal on both ends. If you're a guy or a girl, it's a human thing to want connection. Like that's at the very top of like our, the hierarchy of needs, if you will. But yeah, I feel like people will kind of just settle for anything because like they don't want to be alone,
Yeah. So, okay, let me ask you this then. Because okay. As a guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm living through this. I've gone through my simp days. I went all the way to the other side of the mm-hmm. fuckboy days. Now I'm in the middle. I'm like a fuck man. You know what I mean?
Oh
I'm
my
like
God.
kind of in the middle of the both.
Okay.
When I was a huge simp, right? And I was getting like friend zone all the time. And then I became a fuckboy. I was like, some things girls say, I don't believe them when they say them. And I don't think they're lying. I just think they're not aware of what they actually want. Like, for example, right? You said like money status isn't really important to you. But I know when you go out, I don't see you going out to like some random dive bar. Like you're always going to these like classy events. You're going to mansion parties. Like
I'm going to make an argument for that.
Okay.
There's a very practical reason as to why I do that. So if you're a girl and you live in a major city like New York, LA, Miami, Vegas, everything is free, and it's arguably cheaper to go to like a bougie place where like you go with the promoter or there's a table than I go to the local dive bar and I have to pay money out of my own pocket. So,
I see.
And also like, when I go to those events, okay, how do I put this? I go there to network and genuinely meet cool people, right? But I think there's a very fine line between, going out and like networking and social climbing. And that's a very like fine line here in LA because,
mm-hmm.
Like some people just go to those events to be seen. I don't do that. I go to like actually meet like cool people. And it's like, if we click, cool. But it's like, if I feel like we don't vibe, I'm not going to associate myself with you just because like you have status of any kind,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said, like I am at those events because it's like it's just cheaper for me as a girl. Like why would I go to like the local dive bar if like I could drink for free all night at
okay, let me ask you this.
A bougie club. Yeah.
When's the last time you've ridden in Ubers before?
Yeah,
all the time probably, right? Like going to the club, whatever.
Yeah.
When's the last time you've asked the Uber driver for his number?
I
never. I guarantee. When's the last time you asked? You're at Chipotle and they're ringing you up. Oh, like you seem cool. Like you seem like a nice guy. What's your number? I don't care about status. You could be an Uber driver.
I'm gonna say like I don't approach men first. Like I never do. Like I'm shy. Like I wait to be approached.
Okay.
You know, so that's the reason why I don't ask men in general like for their number. Like I'm not gonna be the one to go up to them first at like a party or like a club and be like, hey, like you're cute. Let's dance. You know.
Okay. So if the Uber driver asked for your number, you would give it to him.
I wouldn't, and it's not. No, it's. Not,
I don't blame you, by the way.
No,
I'm just
it's
saying.
not even like if the guy is cute or not. I just feel like that's like kind of inappropriate because it's an Uber driver. Like that's really creepy. Like they see where I live. Like I feel like that's like a different. Like as a woman, like for safety, like I'm not gonna give the Uber driver.
Okay, what about Chipotle? Yeah. Chipotle worker, he's ringing you up. Thanks. Here's the double steak bowl.
Know.
Hey, you're really cute. What's your number, Jelika? Blah blah blah.
I mean, like honestly. Like, I don't know. Like I said.
I'm trying to help these guys out.
Oh my God, okay.
I'm trying to help
I am
going to
say this, right? Like, it depends on what stage you are at in life. Like, I'm 27 years old, right? So I'm like in the stage of my life where I'm, you know, building up my career. I feel like I'm finally getting into the flow of things. So I want somebody who's on the same level as me, if not better. You know, if they're on a higher level, that's even better for me because you're someone that I could potentially like learn from and take advice from. But if you're a woman, like we talked about this last time, if you're a woman and you do well for yourself, you have your own money, your own career, why would you settle for less than that? Like, wouldn't it? And it's kind of like, you know, if like that other girl said when everybody was here, a lot of guys, if they could get a better looking girl, why would they settle for one that's not as good looking?
I agree.
Right? It's like a two-way like thing. It's just like the women's version of that. Like, you know, like why go for the, and I'm not saying, let me like preface by saying, you know, just because somebody works those like it doesn't mean like they're a loser or anything. Like things happen, you know, like not everybody can afford to go to college. Not everybody like is lucky. Like things happen. Like I work 2 jobs. I have a professional job. I have like my part-time hospitality nightlife job. And the reason that I do that is because I just want to save and invest for my future, you know? Like I don't actually need that other job. I just do it because it's like fun. And it's like, if it's an extra, you know, a few thousand like a year, like you might as well. And, you know, it's nothing, I'm not knocking on guys or like girls who work those kinds of jobs. Like I do it part-time, but I feel like there's a point where like, for example, if you're a guy and you're like my age, 27, and you're not making a conscious effort to improve your situation, that to me is a big red flag, whether you're a guy or a girl, you know? And I've had like friends like this that like I went to college with. We had the same experience, like the same privilege of going to college, and like they didn't do anything with their lives. And like that's why like I'm not friends with them, because it's like they kind of wasted that opportunity like to elevate their life, you know? Well,
it's crazy to me that there's a big trap that girls fall into. And they say, I don't care about money. I had a girl the other day say this to me, Zach, I don't care about money. I just want a guy who's ambitious. Right?
Okay, but like the thing is, there was like a show in the 90s with Will Smith. I don't remember the name, but a girl said, the guy said to the girl like, oh, do you want a rich man? And she said, well, I want somebody who's like ambitious, entrepreneurial, whatever. And then he was like, oh, so you don't care about like money? She's like, no, a man like that is never poor. So like if you have those qualities of ambition and like having drive and you want to do better for yourself, you know, that's great. Like that's going to contribute to future success, you know?
But here's the trap that people fall into, right? I met so many guys in LA who are ambitious.
But do they take like actionable steps toward their goals? Like that's
that's the thing is girls are so easily tricked by the girl that I was talking about. She was like, oh yeah, my boyfriend, he's gonna be rich someday, blah blah.
Okay.
And I met him.
Yes.
And his thing was like, it was like some business, I don't even remember, it was like the Bitcoin but for dogs, but for Uber, and it's an NFT on the blockchain. Okay. And my bullshit meter, Jelika, was just like,
okay,
code red, get the fuck out of here.
I'm going to say something really controversial. A lot of people in LA lack a sense of direction. Like I'm from New York, where it's like everybody.
That's not controversial at all. Everybody thinks that.
No, but I feel like it's present in New York, but you see it a lot in LA. Like people in New York, like it's like a cultural thing. Like people there have like professional jobs, right? Like they're in finance, they're in law, they're in medicine, engineering, whatever it might be, right? people in LA, they move here. I'm going to sound mean. I don't mean to sound this way. There's nothing wrong with pursuing your dreams, but sometimes, like, and this is something that I observed, like, I work in social media for a living. So for some context, I used to manage influencer marketing for a beauty brand, right? And, you know, like finding influencers to work with and stuff. And you see this trend of you have these like teenagers and like early 20-something people move to LA to become a full-time influencer, but they don't have a backup plan. And, you know, what people don't realize, and like there was a TikTok video about this, a lot of those like influencers that are big on TikTok, whatever, some of them like just come from money, so they can afford to become an influencer. They can afford the lavish lifestyle that they present. Obviously, you know, there's exceptions to that and it's just like flexing, but yeah, like you have these people move out here and like there's nothing wrong with pursuing your dream of being an influencer, model, or actor, but you need to have a backup plan. And I feel like a lot of people in LA don't have that common sense, you know? Like, do I want to work a corporate job the rest of my life? No, but it's like, that's my backup plan. Like, I have my dream backup career. Like, that's secure. That's an area of my life where I'm like, okay, if my actual dream career doesn't work out, I have that to fall back on. But like a lot of people move here and like, I hate to say it, but like not everybody can make it and be famous, and that's okay. Just like be smart about it. If you're going to pursue your dreams, you know, have a backup plan of some sort. But like a lot of people moved here and they're like, oh my God, like I have to move back to my hometown because I didn't become like an influencer and actor overnight. I'm like, it takes time, you know?
Well, here's the thing too, is like, I think the conversation regarding what do you want to do in America is always very heavily swayed toward like, do what you're passionate about.
Okay, I'm gonna say like a little life lesson that I'm gonna say. If you're struggling to find like what you want to do with your career, ask yourself, what did you enjoy as a little kid, right? So for me, when I was a little, no, but there's with like exceptions, right? So for example,
I liked Legos as a kid.
Well, like, you know, I've like heard of stories. They're like, oh, I like building things as a kid. They become like an engineer, right? Like for me,
I see.
For example, when I was like a little kid, back when like magazines were still a thing, like I would read like like fashion and beauty magazines, and I like, you know, playing with makeup and dolls and whatever. And like initially, like that's gonna sound weird, I worked in finance before in New York, and then I somehow was very lucky to work in the beauty industry here in LA. And it's about like going back to what you loved as a kid. That's how you find out what you're truly passionate about and like what you can excel in. But I feel like you have to do it with, like, for example, would I love to be a beauty and fashion influencer? Of course, because that's like a genuine interest of mine, right? But the reality is like it's a very saturated market. So like my backup to that is like being a social media manager for like a group of beauty brands, you know? So it's like there's nothing wrong with going after what you're passionate about, but like be realistic about it. And I feel like a lot of people don't have that like realistic outlook in LA, if that makes sense.
Here's, I think, the conversation that needs to happen. Like you're sitting down, whatever, fucking 10th grade with your guidance counselor, and you're trying to figure out what you want to do. Do you go to college? Blah, blah, blah. It should be like, okay, what are you passionate about? Oh, I'm passionate about music. Okay. Just so you know, musicians typically are broke as fuck. Are you okay? Do you like music that much that you're okay being broke as fuck? You know what I mean?
I'm gonna make an argument. You could still work a normal job and pursue your passion on the side. Like there's some influencers who have like normal like 9 to 5
No, but
jobs,
that's what I'm saying.
you know?
You're still gonna be probably, most influencers with 9 to 5 jobs are still kind of broke. You know, they're working at whatever, McDonald's or something, you know. Actually, some are like bottle service and make a lot of money. But like, especially guys, like you're still gonna be broke. But if you love your thing that much, you just love music and you just sit and you play your guitar every day and you just love making songs, then it's like maybe that's the life for you. But you gotta fucking love that shit.
I know. Like, it really depends on what you want to do. Like, for example, I know this sounds mean. Like, if I ever had a kid and they told me, like, I want to be like a famous singer or like an actor, right? I would straight up tell them, like, look, it's fine if you pursue that on the side, but like have a backup plan. And like I said, people in LA, like you could get lucky. Like there are people who get lucky and it just works out for them. But like I think people like here in LA, they have this very like delusional mindset. Like not everybody can be famous, and that's okay. You know, like it's just about being realistic.
And I think too, like people meet so many famous people here because you're out, you meet some celebrity, and then it's like, oh shit, that's gonna be me. You know, it's very much.
That's true. I mean, like for me personally, like I don't care to be famous. I care to have money, you know, I care to be financially stable, to not worry about money again. But the reality of the world that we live in is like for the average person to become like rich in today's world, it's because they become famous usually through social media. Like
I think that's a very small percentage actually. Most rich people are doing the most boring shit ever.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I make like the mechanical gears for the machines that produce tires. It'll be like but I own this company that does that. Like most rich people do boring shit. I like sell insurance. Like most rich people, I think we just see the influencers. By the way, a lot of these influencers have a lot of followers, don't make shit for money. There's a lot of broke influencers.
I'm going to say this because I work in the industry. It depends on what platform you're on and like if you can monetize.
YouTube so, like, people are rich.
No, they are. And here's why.
YouTube
because
is the
with
rich
YouTube
ones.
people, right? Like, haven't you observed, and like this is a thing we talk about in the industry I work in, when you follow somebody on TikTok, you don't really see like their videos reappear in the For You page, right? Unless you go to like the Friends tab, right?
Yeah.
But then with YouTube, the thing is with YouTube, it takes a lot more effort on your end as a viewer to go to the channel and like religiously watch the video. So if somebody subscribes to somebody, let's say like Mr. Beast, who's like huge, right?
Yeah.
They have a community. In TikTok, it's kind of like you go viral and then it's like after that, it's like, okay, but I've never seen you reappear on my feed again.
I know TikTok, I'll go to someone's page. This video is 1 million views. The next video has like 1,400. Then the next video is like 50,000. Then the next video is like 300 views. It's crazy. It's like
something I want to bring up too, because again, like I work in the industry. Like I said about like those kids who move here, like they want to be full-time influencers. I tell people all the time, do not quit your day job to become an influencer, okay? Because brand deals, they're not consistent. Like unless you're on the level of like a Logan Paul and Alex Earl, whatever, like they're not consistent income. And like companies, like in the contract, they're not obligated to pay you until like 30 days after like you post the video and like you sign the agreement or something like that. So I tell people like there's nothing wrong with like being an influencer on the side. And like, of course, everybody would love to be a full-time influencer. I'd love that for myself. But like, you have people like quit their jobs, like to become like,
yeah. And here's why I agree with you too.
You know,
the reality that people don't know, because like my YouTube channel, which I started like way back in the day, and that's how I make all my monies off that. People don't realize how much time and effort it takes and how many years it takes to build that up. And the reality is, if you have a full-time job and you don't have enough time to like post consistently on whatever platform, because like even if you quit your job, that means you don't have the work ethic to do it. Like the only reason to quit your job is if you're posting, like you're doing your job and you're spending another 4 to 6 hours after your job doing TikTok or YouTube, and you're not going and partying with your friends. You're waking up at 6 a.m. to fucking work. Then maybe once you get enough traction, okay, well, if I quit my job, now I can spend 12 to 16 hours a day until I get this thing rolling. But 99% of people don't really want that kind of life, you know?
Yeah, and it's just like interesting because I've seen a lot of videos on TikTok of people are like, I quit my full-time job to be an influencer and it's not working out. And it's like, you got to be smart about it, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to like pursue that, it's like becoming an influencer is kind of like the equivalent of wanting to become a famous actor model. Like I would argue it's still easier than becoming like a famous actor in a big Hollywood movie, but still it's like, it's such a saturated market. And like, I'm going to say something really controversial, but I feel like, especially with the advent of like TikTok, and this has been from the beginning of time, as long as social media has existed at least, right? But I feel like I don't like how it's become a thing. Like we make stupid people famous, or people who do like intentionally polarizing or controversial things just for views, you know? Like I think during COVID, like there were kids licking like toilet seats for like a video views, and I'm like
a prank video.
Yeah, and that's another, like those prank videos, like they've gotten too far.
Like, they're just dumb at this. They're so dumb at this point.
Oh my god, it's so cringy. It's like you go on YouTube, like I tried breaking up with my boyfriend and this was his reaction, and it's like they're surprised when the boyfriend actually reacts like viscerally or like not in the way that they expected, and I'm just like, you destroyed your relationship for views, you know?
Oh, people will do anything for clout on YouTube.
I don't like that. I think we need to change. There's this whole discourse on like social media. We need to bring back shame. I know this sounds like harsh, but people will treat social media like as their personal diary, or like you said, they'll do cringy shit just for views, you know? And it's like disruptive, you know? I don't mean to sound like I'm very like uptight and stuff. Like I'm on TikTok to watch like funny videos and stuff, but like there's a very fine line between like it's funny versus like you need to like get it together, you know, like you're just doing things for the clout, basically.
Yeah, for sure. So how is, in terms of like coming from New York to LA?
You know what's so interesting? So I noticed when I moved from New York, like after COVID, we have a lot of like influencers now in New York.
Okay.
And I know again it might sound too harsh, but like a lot of those like influencers in New York, they're like transplants. They're not born and raised in New York City, because like there's not a single like, well, there might be some, but like the majority of these like people who are influencers in New York, they come from other states, right? And I think what's interesting coming from New York to LA is you just see like the different ways that people live. Like when I lived in New York City, nightlife is a big thing over there, but it's not like LA nightlife where you have like these mansion parties and stuff like that. I would argue that New York nightlife is a lot more exclusive. Like they don't care if you're like an Instagram influencer with like millions of followers. It's like, do you have the money to spend, you know? Like, because, you know, they have like people with actual like money and legit real world status like come into those clubs.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's just different because status is completely, there's no such thing as real status. Everything's made up status.
Yeah.
The status is completely just like somebody decided, oh, well, Will Smith has more status than Logan Paul. But it's completely arbitrary. I mean, status, there's a lot of celebrities that some TikToker literally has more followers, more fans, more people that actually connect with him as a person than some like famous actor. But the famous actor was in a show that was a real show, so then they are considered. It's my big beef with the fashion industry.
No, okay, so I think like traditionally when you think of like modeling, like we talked about this last time, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're like a supermodel, like a high fashion model, like people know your name, you've been in Victoria's Secret, like that will always be like the standard of like, oh my god, that's like a real model, right? But like I said, I have nothing wrong with like girls being Instagram models. You know, that's essentially what everybody is, especially if you are like a beauty or like a fashion influencer. It kind of bleeds into the role of being an Instagram model. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know? But I feel like what I don't like is when people think because they're Instagram or TikTok famous, they're real celebrities. Like it just, are there some influencers that have definitely achieved celebrity status, like Addison Rae, Logan Paul, Alex, like of course, right? But like, the majority of influencers, they're not at that level, and that's okay, you know. But I don't like when you meet them and they're like, I'm a big celeb, like they act like they're a real celebrity, but they're not, you know.
But even that, what do you mean by real celebrity?
Okay, like
who decides who the real celebrities
I guess,
are, you know?
Okay, I feel like you really achieve like celebrity status fame when like you're going to like legit red carpet events, you're getting invited to the Met Gala like Addison Rae was. Like that to me is like, oh shit, you're like real celebrity status.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, so when the Met Gala goes on, there's some dude in a room and his job is to decide who gets invited to the Met Gala. So does that guy, is he like the god of who's a celebrity? Oh, you're a celebrity? Nah, you're on TikTok. That doesn't count.
I think
boo, you're not a real celebrity, you know?
What I classify as like a real celeb, and like again, people might have differing opinions and that's okay. To me, I feel like you've achieved legit celebrity status when you're in the media, like you're in news outlets, you're in news articles, right? Like, but I feel like for most influencers in LA, like I've never seen them in like an article, you know, like they're just famous on Instagram and TikTok, and that's okay. Like that's awesome for them, but I just don't like when like, and I've dealt with a lot of this because like I worked in that industry. Like I've met people who think like because they have a few 100,000 followers or even 1 million followers plus on Instagram and TikTok that they're like celebrities, but I'm like, you're not. You're like a normal person who just happened to get famous.
So the reason, like no matter,
people are not humble anymore.
I mean, I agree that like, okay, you could argue like someone should be more humble, right? Whether you're a real celebrity or Instagram celebrity. But I still don't like this distinction between the real celebrities because no matter,
I guess you do have a point.
No matter what criteria you use, at the end of the day, if you boil it down, it's, oh, there's some dude in a room who decides, I'm going to write an article about you. Okay, so does this guy decide who the real celebrities are? Oh, I'm not going to write an article about the TikToker. I'm going to write it about this actor on Euphoria because they're a real celebrity. And I've decided that they're the real celebrity that I'm going to write the article on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
but it's just arbitrary. It's just some dude that decides.
I do see your point. But it's interesting. We live in LA. It's like everybody's famous here in some capacity, you know?
Yeah. Have you had any celebrity meetings or
I have
interesting stories? Scoot forward the chair a little bit.
Okay, got you. Okay, I actually know it's one of my craziest, if not the craziest LA story that I have. So When I moved here end of 2020, like everything was shut down, and then you know how things reopened. Like I think it was summer 2021, right? So I'm like new to LA. Like this is why I'm like going like clubbing all the time just to see what it's like, because I never really went clubbing in New York because it's just too cold. It's a nuisance to do that over there. So I went to this random club. Wait, are we gonna like blur out who the celebrity's name is?
We can. Do you need to?
Yeah, we could.
Or you could just not say his name.
No, but we could bleep it out, but I'll also like give some context. So I go to this like random club, and it's like an album release party for this famous, like everybody knows who this rapper is. Like he was big when like you and I were like younger, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I just take like a story and I tag him like, oh my God, because it's like I haven't seen this person perform in years. Like I thought they died. Like they fell off the face of the earth. And then I guess like the rapper, it was actually, like he saw that like I tagged him, and like a lot of girls in the club, I think this happened to, but he responded, like he DM'd me and was like, oh, do you want to come to an after party at my place? And I'm like, this is not like real, right? And then he's like, oh, like text me, here's my number. So my friend, like she like FaceTimes him, and he actually picks up, and he's already like at his place in Calabasas. So I'm like, okay, like let's go, because it's like when like that. And it's funny because that was like my first LA mansion party. Like that set the bar pretty high to be like personally invited by a celebrity. So then we go to his place, and you know what's really interesting, he was very nice and polite. Like he might not, because when you think of like rappers, you're like, oh, like you don't know, but like he was very nice and like cordial. He was a cool guy, you know.
So then what happened?
I mean, we just went there. It was only like a few girls, like me and my friends, a few other girls, but yeah, like it was weird because when we got there, and I think this is pretty standard, like if you go to a celebrity's house, security took our phones and made us like check them in, because we can't be like taking videos and stuff in their house. But yeah, and then after that, he still like reached out to me, like he texted me and stuff, but I hate to say it. Again, we're bleeping out the name, right? But like he kind of was like illiterate, like he didn't know how to text, and he would just text me stuff, and I'm like, I feel like he's high when he's texting me these things, you know? And that was that, you know? So
you never hooked up with him or anything?
No. Okay, I have this thing, like I know it's a very common thing in like LA and Miami and, you know, other big cities. I never was really into like athletes and rappers. I know that's like a very common thing that women do, because it's like those are like the epitome of like status and like, entertainment.
Highest.
But I always say, and I don't mean to sound like how do I put this? Like I definitely want to date somebody successful, but I don't necessarily want them to be famous. And my reason for that is like if you date a guy who's like famous and rich, right? Like he's never gonna commit to you. Like that's why like, you know, all of those like women get cheated on that they're like married to, like a lot of them. But I feel like if you're a girl and you chase after like athletes and rappers because you want the money, you want a child support check, like okay, sure. But if
sure. What do you mean? Okay, sure.
No, because it's like their life, they're women, they're grown women, they could do what they want. But like if you actually think you're gonna have like a serious relationship with an athlete or rapper, I hate to break it to you, but it's like they kind of have like a track record of not being faithful, you know. But girls, like if you just want like the money and like the fame that it could give you, you know, being associated with somebody like that, then by all means, like, do you. Like, I'm not going to judge you.
No, and it's the same way for guys, like, in terms of, like, it's actually more of a turn on for me if a girl doesn't have a lot of Instagram followers. Actually, even if a girl, you know, it's a red flag.
What?
If I follow a girl and we have a lot of mutual friends.
I don't think.
Which is, I know, hypocritical of me, but it's
my God.
I'm like, if we have a lot of mutuals, all right, we run in these same circles. Like, you're going to these parties too. You're going to the Hollywood Hills mansion. You're going to these exclusive clubs, which means there's a party you're getting hit up by rappers and you're getting hit up by athletes and like all these other people, you know?
You know, it's like really interesting because I feel like a lot of men would want to date somebody who's like an Instagram model, like somebody who has some sort of clout, whether they're like a normal guy or like a guy with status. But I think for me, like I said, I do want to date somebody who's successful and has shit going for them, but I'd rather date somebody who's like, you're rich, but nobody knows you, you know? Like, I don't want to date somebody who's like super famous, because it's like, I know women are going to be like throwing themselves at you like consistently. And that I know like you probably wouldn't be faithful to me, because it's like, if you're rich and you have all of this like fame, why would you settle? You know, it's not right. But
you know, the one I always wonder about?
What?
LeBron.
Really? Okay.
Because here's the thing. LeBron, right? Married his high school sweetheart, you know, then becomes this mega super celebrity, rich, famous, best basketball player in the world, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, Jordan, like, you're good too, but LeBron's the best. Like, in my head, I'm like, okay, he probably cheats on his wife? Like, I don't know, but it's
Okay.
weird because most basketball players, I'm like, you can tell
I'm
he
gonna
cheats.
say
But
something.
LeBron, he seems like his personality, he seems like, no, I'll be faithful. But I'm like,
you
you're that successful and you're just faithful?
Well,
It's crazy.
You would be like, we don't know about his personal life. Right?
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
thing is, I feel like a lot of, I'm not saying all men cheat. That's not a right assumption or like a statement to make. But I feel like a lot of men do cheat, and they would cheat if they knew that they could get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how like rich or successful they are. Like, you have bum ass guys like who do that all the time. It's terrible, but yeah, like it's just awful. You know, people cheat on each other all the time.
Have you ever cheated?
No.
Good for you.
I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't align with my, like, I'm a very straight up, like, I'm a nice person, but I'm very like direct too. It's like, if I see it like this, if I am in a relationship with a guy and like I only have eyes for you, like you're the only person I'm dating, and will there always be somebody, and it's on both ends if you're a guy or a girl, will there always be somebody who's like better looking than your partner, has more money, more status, whatever? Like, of course, like nobody's perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it I think to be faithful, it's like a choice. And I feel like if you really love somebody, like it wouldn't even like cross your mind, you know? Like, I know that I'm not in love, or like I don't actually like the person I'm with if like I go out and I'm like, oh, there's like cute guys everywhere, because it's like, I could you still acknowledge if somebody, like, yeah, they're attractive, but it's like, do you act on that, you know?
Mm-hmm. When was your last relationship?
This is gonna sound crazy. My last official relationship was 5 years ago. I was 22.
Wow.
Early 20s. I definitely like got to know and casually dated people in between, but I just haven't met the right, and I think I kind of jinxed myself because I was like, okay, my next legit relationship will be my last. But that's like how I date. Like, I date with the intention of marrying. I know people might think that that's like crazy, but I feel like at my age, right, even though it's not like that old in the grand scheme of things, like I'm not dating to mess around. Like, I date with the intention of like, I want to find like the potential future husband and maybe father of my kids if I choose to have kids, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's hard to date. And this is something that I've, you know, I'll segue into. It's very hard to date because, okay, when you're like my age, right, you don't want to date somebody younger because they don't want anything serious. Like, traditionally, I've usually dated guys on average like 4 to 5 years older than me because I want somebody who's like a little more like well-established, you know, more inclined to want something serious. But at this age, it's really weird because the guys that are like my age and younger, they don't want something serious. And I hate to say it, but age does not equal maturity. I've dated men in LA, especially, anywhere between like 24 when I was like 26 years old, all the way up to like 48, like talked to them, got to know them. And you would think like, oh, if a guy is like in his 30s or 40s, he'd be more mature. They still play games.
That's because girls like games.
No, that's
I'm
not
sorry.
true.
I wish it was. I wish it
that
wasn't
is
true.
the toxic women.
I
Who are
don't
you
want to have
attracting
to
into
play
your
games.
life?
I
No,
wish
that's
I could just.
toxic women.
Hey, I think
that
you're
you're
really
dealing
cute.
with.
It like back when I was a simp and I didn't play games, it was just like, hey, like you know, the date would be over. Hey, had a great time tonight. Would love to see you again. That, I swear, girls have literally said like, oh, that's an ick for me. Like if a guy says that, it's like literally an ick.
To me, and I'm sorry, I'm just checking my phone to make sure,
Yeah.
you know, time. But no, for me, like I like that. If you tell me after the date, oh, I had a good time, I want to see, like, of course, like I would, assuming like the feeling is mutual, like of course I'd love to see you again. But I feel like the girls that you're talking, okay, I saw this video the other day, and this guy made the argument is that men love crazy women, and then they have this assumption like all women are crazy. You know, it's like you never see like a crazy man and a crazy girl come together, because like crazy and crazy equals like a shit show, like, for lack of a better way of putting it. And you never see like the normal people with the normal people. It's always like one person is crazy in the relationship. And I think men are like, all women are crazy, but I'm like, it's because you go for the crazy ones. It's like the girls who are like, all men are cheaters. It's because you go for the ones that you know are like trouble, you know. There comes a point you have to take personal accountability for like who you let into your life.
Okay,
who you date.
This is the truth, and you're not going to
Okay.
want to hear it. And girls
What
are
is
so
it?
confused on it. Girls always think that guys, oh, like they like this girl because she's crazy, or they like this girl because she's fun, or they like this girl, oh, I didn't text him back and then that made him want me more, all this stuff. The truth is 90% of the reason a guy will talk to you or not talk to you is if he thinks you're hot.
No, and that's
That
the
is
thing.
90%
That
of
is
it.
the
Not for
thing.
me, I'm very shy and romantic. All I care about is personality. But all the other guys
Okay,
out there,
but-
that is it.
But it's
just
kind of, it's the kind of like what I told you earlier, right? Like, it, you know, obviously I'm not going to date somebody I'm not attracted. You have to be at least somewhat attracted to me, but it's like there are certain people I've like talked to or dated like casually or more seriously, like, you know, that they acted the way that they looked, you know. It's like if you date a guy who's like super good looking, has money, like it doesn't really surprise you when he ends up
no, but
like,
I'm saying girls, I agree, girls will like a guy who maybe isn't that attractive, but he's very charming, he's very charismatic, he has money, whatever, he has some other intangibles. But in terms of what guys date girls for, it's 90% looks. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying that's the truth.
No,
that's the truth.
Yeah, but it's like, that's why I go back to what I said earlier. Like, it's so, and I'm not saying like you're like this, but there's this whole discourse on social media where it's like, when women say, oh, I want to date a guy who is financially stable at least, or like has the provider mentality, guys will be like, you're a gold digger or whatever. And I'm like, that doesn't make somebody a gold digger, you know? But it's like, guys are allowed to ask for like a laundry list of requirements of what they look for a girl.
Well, no.
You know?
This is the opposite. It's
really?
a complete. Okay, I know guys. Guys will be like, yeah, like she works at McDonald's and like her face isn't even that cute, but she has a nice ass. They will find one thing to be like, everything else is bad, but she has a nice ass. They will date her. Girls will be like, he has to be successful, tall, good looking, charming, blah, blah, blah. Girls have way bigger of a list. Like, not me, I'm very selective. Like, all the other guys I'm saying. Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I feel like there are men, like, especially in a city like LA. Okay, I'm going to make an argument. I feel like part of the reason why dating in LA is so hard, it is the land of, like, social media. And, like, social media, like, you have all these, like, very attractive people, right?
Yeah.
And, like, historically, you know, when you date whoever is local in your, like, neighborhood or village or whatever, right? And I think because it's on both sides, but especially for men, you're exposed to so many like curated, filtered images of women that it shifts your perception of what you can realistically expect, right? In terms of like looks from a woman. And that's why it's so hard dating here, because I feel like a lot of guys and girls too, like they think they're always looking for the next best thing. That's what I don't like about LA. In New York, are people assholes and do they ghost you? Like, of course, but people are more direct with you and like they won't waste your time to the extent that people here in LA will waste time. Like, I can't tell you how, oh my God, like when I was dating in New York, like both like meeting people in person and like on the dating apps, like Bumble, whatever, right? It was very easy to go on dates because people are within close proximity to each other. You take the train, you meet for happy hour after work. It's easy. And people are like, okay, let's just meet up and see how it goes. Here in LA, you're like messaging, like playing pen pals with somebody for weeks over like an app or text. And it's like, I'm one of those people, if you don't ask me on like a proper date within a week of texting me, like I don't want to hear it. Like I don't have time for it, you know? And I just feel like, yeah, people in LA here, like they just love to waste time and they love looking for the next best thing. And
I do
so
agree
annoying.
with you, but I also think, okay, especially, okay, if you're meeting guys online dating.
That's why I stopped.
And by the way, it's the same with girls. Like, dude, I haven't done online dating in years because it's overwhelming.
It's in shambles.
You have to realize, so like, anybody who's on a dating app, like, you could be on a date with a guy. When you go to the bathroom, guarantees texting his other Tinder matches. And you probably do the same thing. Have you ever, a guy goes to the bathroom and then you're on Bumble fucking texting your people?
I think for me, that's why, like, I stopped with online dating. Like, I'm one of those people where I'm going to say something controversial. So they tell you as a woman when you're dating, you should have like a roster, right? Because it's like...
Who tells you that?
No, it's like, it's just this whole thing like on social media. And like even before social media was a thing, they're like, oh, you should keep your options open. And like my thing is, okay, do I think when you first meet somebody, especially off a dating app, like can they go on dates with, like, sure, right? Like whatever. But I feel like I would never put somebody, like I wouldn't like lead on 5 guys at a time. And I'm like, 3 to 5 dates in with each of them. I feel that's a little bit wrong because like I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me, right? So it's like I'm one of those people, like I know immediately after the first date if I want to see you again or not, or if I would potentially date you. And I don't believe in like ghosting and dating. Like I just feel like I will just tell you like, look, I don't think it's gonna work out, but I wish you well, because it's like a nasty thing to ghost people. But here in LA, like I don't know, it's just like weird because it's like everybody claims they're looking for love, but like you barely find people who like seem like they are, if that makes sense. I don't know. Like guys will be like, oh, LA girls are so fake. All they care about is money. And I'm not saying you're one of those people, but it's like maybe those are the kinds of women that you keep pursuing. And
No,
like, you're not...
I actually support girls who like you want to date a broke guy? You want your pussy to smell like Wendy's?
Oh my God.
You want to date a janitor, have him stick a broom up your pussy? Like, the fuck you? Of course you want a rich guy. Like, just like here's the thing. We're all superficial. People think guys are super. We're all superficial, right? For guys, we're superficial about looks, and girls are superficial about personality and money. Mm-hmm. But actually more personality. Girls say all the time, I'm not superficial. I want a guy who's confident, makes me laugh, smart, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, someone can be confident and still be an asshole. Someone can be smart, still be an asshole. Someone can make you laugh, still be an asshole. Being confident is a superficial personality trait. Mm-hmm. I don't blame you for liking it. Like, we like what we like. That's what you're attracted to. But don't think that's any less superficial than I want a girl with a rockin' body. I want a girl with a beautiful face, something like that.
I do agree with that. I feel like for me, like, are there like certain like standard qualities that I look for when like, of course, right? But it's like, I kind of know, like, is this guy like a long-term potential fit for me based on like not little things, like more significant things. Like, you know, when I tell him about like something that I'm going through in my life, is he supportive or is he like dismissive? Like, those are like things that I like look for and like I evaluate when I date somebody, you know? But I feel like you said, on both ends, it like, just both men and women, especially here in LA, like, they're superficial. Like, they're like, I want the girl with like the double D's, and then you have like the girls who are like, I need the guy who's like the richest. And I feel like you have to find somebody. Like, I think what happens in LA, like I said, people are like they're fixated on this idea of perfection that does not exist in dating. Nobody is perfect, right? Mm-hmm. There's always going to be somebody better than your current partner. But I feel like there is a point in time where it's like, if you want to settle down and find love and like a meaningful connection, you have to just, I don't want to say like settle, but like you have to like be realistic about like what's achievable in terms of dating, right? Like, there's a book that my sister told me about where the lady basically compared dating to a shopping mall. So let's say the first level is like a good looking girl. The second level is a good looking girl who's funny. The third level is a good looking girl who's funny, has a great career. And then eventually you get to like the very top of like the shopping mall, and there's like no other options left. And I feel like, you know, you shouldn't settle, but at the same time, like, you can't like constantly be thinking something better is out there. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in this like cycle of like constantly looking for better. And the next thing you know, you're like 50 and you're like, oh shit, like I never found somebody, you know?
You know what I like about that metaphor? That's actually a really good metaphor, because it's like, okay, let's say you're on the mall. Let's say there's 10 levels of those things. I think what people do is like, okay, on level 1, everything's cheap, right? Because it's like, okay, there's someone, they're not attractive, they're not charismatic, they don't have money, but like you could find a connection with somebody, and guess what? It's very inexpensive. You don't have to bring much to the table. Oh, I only have like $50 on me. Cool, I could like find something in the shopping mall. Then level 2, it's like there's less people, because now you have to get to level 2, you have to be smart and attractive. Let's say, okay, well, if you want someone on level 2, now it's like you have to bring more to the table. Level 3, level 4. When you get to level 10, someone who's smart, funny, attractive, rich, everything. Sometimes I see girls and they're like, oh yeah, I deserve someone at level 10. I'm like, yeah, but level 10 is expensive. It might cost $5,000 for a purse, whatever. But I'm like, so what are you bringing to the table? And you know what girls tell me? I cannot tell you how many times I've heard.
What do they say?
My presence.
Okay, I'm going to say...
What? You show up? Okay. You just show up? That's it?
I'm going to say this, right? Okay, how do I put this? You have to be like real, and it's on both ends. You have to be realistic about who you're gonna potentially date or marry. Like, for me, I don't expect to be with like a Brad Pitt looking dude, you know? Like, I'm not like a 6 foot tall Victoria's Secret model by like any means, but I feel like, you know, and you do see couples where it's like the man is a lot better looking than the woman and like vice versa, right? But I feel like you just have to be realistic. Like, for me, I'm very much about like, as long as you have good character, I find you good looking. Like, you don't have to be Brad Pitt, but if you're like cute or like good looking to me and you treat me well, you have great character, I'll fall in love with you, sure. But I feel like there are people like that, like girls who are like, I hate to say it, but you have to, again, it's like manifestation. In order to attract what you want, you have to be that. And a lot of women don't realize, and it's pushed on social, I hate this whole thing on like social media. They're all scammers, like these femininity coaches, how to date a rich man. 99% of those women have never talked to or like actually like bagged a rich man in their life, right? And I'm like, if you really, and it's really weird because it depends on like what area of society that you're trying to be in. So it's like there's this weird thing on TikTok where people are like, oh, I want to marry an old money guy. And I'm like, I hate to say it, that's never going to happen because traditionally like old money people marry within that social circle,
That's
right?
true.
If you want to date more of like a Hollywood rich guy, like new money, like of course, like that's attainable, like, but you have to be like really attractive. You know, you need to know how to like finesse and whatever. And it's really weird because I feel like it's on both. And like, yeah, like from the beginning of time, like women, we have so many like expectations put on us, right? To be and look a certain way. But I feel like also like on women's end, like it's really weird. And I agree with what you said. Like there's women, it's like they don't really have much going for them, but they think like I deserve the richest, hottest guy in the world. And it's like, are you at least like a good person? Like, you know, and it's not even about being like the hottest girl. Like, are you genuinely like a good person that they would want to date?
Yeah, like to get to that level,
you know,
you gotta have crazy looks, but you also have to have like a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
And by the way,
it's like,
I'm not a hypocrite. Like,
yeah.
Okay, I've worked super fucking hard to become successful.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a good personality. Like I've worked hard on my charisma. I've worked hard on my fashion. I work out all the time. So I deserve like a pretty high level girl to me because I've worked for it.
Yeah, of
but
course.
Do I deserve a Victoria's Secret model? I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a pro athlete. Like I'm not at that level yet where I deserve that. It's like, no, I'm not at level 10. I'm on maybe the 8th floor or something. Like, you know, to get to the person on the 10th floor, it's like you got to make more money.
I think it's just about, like I said, being realistic. Like for me, and I think what's so weird about dating in LA is like, you think like it would be easy to find just like a guy who's like a 7 with a heart of gold. Like even like the 7s and the 3s are acting like,
go to Chipotle and ask the next guy.
Oh
I swear to God, he's probably, most guys are nice guys. Like they're invisible to you. You don't even know they exist.
No,
they're like ghosts.
No, I'm gonna make like an interesting observation that I've made, right? Okay, so like I go out to like I've gone to like those really like nice exclusive, because I get invited, it's free, I'll go, right? But like I would go out a lot with like my friends on the west side, like in Santa Monica, and I noticed like there's a stark contrast where when you go, like I always jokingly say, but it's true, like you're not gonna find your boyfriend or husband in a Hollywood club. Like if you want a guy, it's probably not gonna be there. Like I hate to say it, but you know, it's kind of like a slippery slope if you date somebody like in those circles. But when you go and you like find somebody in like, let's say Santa Monica, right? Like those people, they're like a little more like down to earth, right? Like they have more like normal jobs. They're like a finance bro, engineer, whatever, right? Like that's what I'm looking for. Like I don't want to, like for me personally, even though I'm like, yeah, like I would love to be a beauty or like fashion influencer, right? I don't want to date a guy who's like famous and like clout chasing and all of that, because it's like it's just like a messy thing I don't want to get involved with. I want to date somebody who's like successful but like behind the scenes, you know? Like I just, yeah.
That makes sense.
And people out there, like if you go out in like Santa Monica, like I've met guys there who are more like, they have like good shit going for them, but you know, they're still a little more down to earth. But like in Hollywood, like you meet so many guys and girls who are very like just superficial, you know, like they're out here chasing like who's like the hottest girl in this club or who's the richest guy like at this party, you know.
All right, well, this has been fun. We are about at that hour mark. So do you have any shout outs you want to give to Instagrams or TikTok or anything?
Like saying my socials?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Will you just like tag me in
Yeah,
it?
we can just tag you.
Okay, it's just X__ Jelika. So like my joke is that my name is Angelica without the N. So yeah.
Gotcha. Oh, one more question.
Okay.
This is the last question we always do. It's a poll we're taking.
Yes.
Let's say you meet a guy. He texts you. The bubble's green.
The what?
The bubble. The text bubble, it's green because he has an
and
Android
he's an Android
phone. Is that a plus? Is that a minus? Or is that neutral?
I feel like, you know, from like a technical perspective, like it's kind of hard to text somebody with an Android. Like, let's be real. But it's not like I would like throw you away. And
it's not a deal breaker.
Like you
but
have
is
an
it
Android.
like, all right, you have to make up for that by being a little better personality-wise?
No, like you would be surprised. Like I've met guys who like good looking, have money. They have Androids because they're just more into technology and they like firmly believe that like Androids are like elite to iPhones. I don't think so. I feel like iPhones are a lot more like user friendly and like intuitive to use. But yeah, no, it's not like a red flag to me. I think something that's like more of a red flag is like, I don't know, if Oh, actually, I'm sorry if I'm like going. Like,
no, go for it. Go for it.
I think a huge red flag that I observed here in LA. Okay, like for example, I know like you have roommates, but like that's because you all kind of like work together, so that's like different. But I noticed this trend. Like I don't like going to those like Hollywood, like those club after parties, because it's always like it looks like an Airbnb, like nobody lives there, and you find out it's like 4 guys who live there in like this barely furnished like mansion essentially. And I just feel like there's a certain age and time where it's like I'd rather a guy like you have your own place, doesn't have to be the bougiest thing in the world. If it's in a safe neighborhood, it's furnished, you're good. But it's like I noticed this trend in like Hollywood where like you'll have these like 4 or 5 like 20 something year olds in these like I call them like Hollywood McMansions essentially.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, this is kind of one of those.
No, but like here,
Yeah.
it's like you actually like are working with the people you live with. But like a lot of those guys, it's because they want to flex and bring girls over. And I'm just like,
And it's just fun. It's
guess
fun.
so, but I'm
I don't
like-
know. Like, I lived alone one time and like for 6 months. I mean, granted, I grew up with a big family.
Mm-hmm.
I was miserable. I was so lonely. I was just like, I just like having people around. Like, yo, what's up? How's it going? Like, I don't know. It's something about that.
yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like there is a certain point in time where it's like, as a woman, I don't want to go to a guy's house, and it's like,
Because your roommate's over
yeah,
on the couch.
you know, it's like in this house, like it's fine because you guys have your own like separate rooms. It's like huge. You work together, but I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a red flag,
Mhm.
you know. But yeah.
Well, all right. This has been fun. We'll have to have you on round 2 sometime.
I'm down to come tomorrow. Like, fuck it. Let's go.
Let's fucking go.
Let's go.
All right. Take care, everybody.